This is Blacklisted Radio. It's the 18th day of May, 2013. My name is Doug Owen. I am your navigator and narrator for the next 2 hours on this podcast. It is a distinct pleasure to have my good friend, James J.J. Freeland, a man with many names. They all start with J. And what's up, brother? Good morning.
Well, I'm glad I finally made it. I let you down last week, but this week I made sure I was here. Hey, thanks for having me on your awesome radio program.
Well, thanks, man.
I love Blacklisted Radio. I've been listening to it for, 5 years now.
It's been a while.
Yeah. I appreciate you having me on, Doug.
Yeah, I guess we first met through the Animal Farm radio show. You were a fan of the Animal Farm, and I was as well. Still am.
I liked Intel Strike Report. I used to listen to you guys.
Yeah, but I guess it was WTPRN. It's been a while.
Yeah. But Animal Farm is when I started calling into shows and being one of those other guys. You know, I became a big fan of Oracle when Oracle first started, dude. I pretty much that first year I became a fan, and I've listened to you guys to the Intel Strike Report, and then to both your independent shows, you and Mike. So I've been a big fan for quite some time, man. Some time.
Yeah, talking about Michael Vale, who was co-host with me for several years in a lot of different capacities. So there's a lot of history and a lot of good times along the way. So it's fun to actually do this, and this is the first time, your inaugural visit to the Blacklisted Radio podcast. So for the people out there listening, at any point in time in the future, you can keep up with the show via Twitter. We always put out tweets, and there's a free newsletter. Of course, you can go to blacklistednews.com. Saturday morning, you can bet your sweet bippy I will be here 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. So a lot of stuff to get into throughout the week. Pretty scandal-ridden. The IRS has been
you know what's funny, dude, is they're all old scandals that the media has finally picked up on, or you know what I mean?
Right.
It's like it's a big week in scandals, but they're scandals that we've known about for a while.
Well, yeah, and this just came out today that the IRS's inappropriate behavior was pre-planned public disclosure. So this was timed and staged to come out at the exact point this week when it did. And the Daily Caller just had this one. So it's not a conspiracy theory. And most of the conspiracy theorists have been vindicated. The IRS is a weapon that's being used by the executive branch. Say what you will about this witch hunt. It's been ongoing, and I would imagine.
And they can use the IRS whenever they want. You know what I mean? If they can't find kitty porn on your computer, if they can't, they can't get you in any other way, they can just stick the IRS on you. Yeah, you know what I mean? Al Capone, you name it, the IRS can take you down.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, they can always plant evidence on you. I mean, that works.
Well, and because you know what, 90% of America thinks that, man, you have to pay. The only things you have to do in life are die and pay taxes. And if you screw the government out of taxes, most Americans, even though they do it whenever they can, look at you as though you're some sort of, You're some kind of a con man that tried to teach a government. You're cheating the government, even though the government reams you up the booty every time they get a chance to. With the IRS.
Yeah.
The IRS is like a giant phallic, Never mind.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan either, Jim. No,
I'm not a fan.
I pay them only out of wanting and cherishing my freedom.
Fear, dude, is the only reason you pay them.
Sure.
Because if they don't just take everything you own, they'll murder you in your house and burn you to the ground.
And they have this whole racket on being this virtuous entity, and people believe that oddly enough that there will be no roads. It's usually what it comes right down to, is that there will be no infrastructure.
There'd be no roads, and there'd be no stop signs, and planes would be falling out of the sky.
Right. If we just took a little bit of the power away from the IRS. And so I think what it really comes down to for me is that it shows that you have this problem with maintaining any kind of large institution that has this kind of unchecked power.
Yeah.
And so it's always going to be used as a way to target different groups, enemies, and
they always have different reasons why they don't have to be transparent. Why, you know what I mean? They've known about the targeting of, conservative groups for well over a year now, even though we've known about it probably for 30 years that they, and it doesn't matter if it's a red or a blue, an ass or an elephant. They all use the IRS.
Well,
I'll use it as their loaded weapon.
Yeah, I've got this funny clip of Barack Obama, I guess, being tongue-in-cheek or trying to be funny and joking about using the IRS to target his enemies. But it brings me to this clip that I have, and this came out in February. There's a few different takeaways from Maxine Waters, but she talks about this database that's being collected by the Obama administration. Here, I'll play it real quick.
All right.
I think.
The inauguration represented the beginning of his second term.
Yes.
But it also represented the countdown of the end of his presidency.
That's right.
And the reality is, like anything else, you better get what you can while he's there because, look.
You got to love this guy. Sorry. But yeah, you got to get for it. Go for it, brother. Get that.
You got to
get that
get
money.
your wreck off.
You got to get your money, get your presidential library. Do it. I mean, it's just brash. He's just saying what, this is some BET show or something.
Come 2016, that's it.
Well, I don't know, and I think some people are missing something here. The president has put in place an organization that contains the kind of database that no one has ever seen before in life. That's going to be very, very powerful, and whoever...
In terms of the Organizing for America that he's now shifting to become a 501c4.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And that database will have information about everything on every individual in ways that it's never been done before, and whoever runs for president on the Democratic ticket have to deal with that. They're going to have to go down with that database and the concerns of those people because they can't get around it. And he's been very smart. I mean, it's very powerful what he's leaving in place, and I think that's
what the hell is she talking about?
She's talking about this database that they're using
I know.
for the tax exemption status, but that's the whole gist of this. When you have a tax exempt company or nonprofit or not for profit or some of the variations of that, you have to really be at the mercy of the federal government, and the scrutiny is there. And so, they're trying to mitigate this by saying this is just a few people, and this had no connection to Eric Holder or Barack Obama. This is just some rogue cell, some do-good Democrat. You
can't get rid of it. Can't get rid of them. I mean, it's easy to point stuff out, but they never why wouldn't we be able to? If the IRS has done something so corrupt, how come? What did they do? The one guy who's just about to retire resigned instead, or they let him go. I mean, they let go a guy that was at the end of his career to begin with, and so we're all supposed to forget about it now. Yeah, we took care of it. Yeah, we got that guy.
But yeah,
we got that one guy.
He's been so vocal about going after his enemies and targeting them and talking about this, and so it's going to be really hard for him to kind of back away from many of these statements. And they're already
he says the same thing at every press conference after a big event. I heard about it the same time you did. I think I was listening to CNN or, come on, man.
Is he really that out of touch? Is he?
That's what I'm saying. Is he really so far out of the loop? He's the leader, supposedly the leader of the free world. He doesn't know anything about anything. He finds out everything when it comes out on the news. It's like, I mean, and the public just goes for it.
Well, and just think about this, okay? If you're president, the most ostensibly powerful man in the free world, gets the same information at the same time that you do, then there's a big problem. If I'm more aware, if guys that just watch Fox News and CNN are more aware of what's happening in the world than Barack Obama, I think that either means that he's not doing his job, and I don't think he is. He vacationed more than Bush, and Bush vacationed far too much.
A lot.
Yeah,
he takes us into a war and then vacations the whole time.
Well, it was Dick Cheney's war. I mean,
that's true.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't his first. It wasn't his first, and he's often been...
Yeah, because they make billions, so yeah, you're right. He was chomping at the bit when he got a chance to get in there and get some more war money rolling.
Yeah, well, there's this interesting documentary I recently watched about Panama, and it's called The Panama Deception.
I seen that. I think I saw that one.
Yeah, but I mean, Cheney orchestrated the oustering of the Panamanian government and their CIA asset
Isn't Panama is actually one of the countries that old John Perkins was involved in.
Yeah, well, I mean, Noriega was there, and
Mm-hmm.
he was trafficking huge amounts of drugs, and the Bush administration had no problem with that. They just wanted more. Yeah. They wanted more military expansion, and they wanted to expand the bases that were already there in Panama. And
Noriega said no. Nationalized them, in fact.
Well, he became very
canal.
nationalistic, and he didn't play to the U.S.'s tune. So they were able, in a very short amount of time to go in and just ransack the country, install a fake puppet government, and I mean, in a relatively small amount of time. It wasn't that hard to do it. I mean, you're talking about knocking over all opposition newspapers. I mean, they had a plan to go in there to dismantle and to build.
And they did, dude.
And so that's why with that hubris, and I mean, it was atrocious. And when you watch the documentary, it just shows you how much of that was shocking in 1992 that 4,000 people had been killed, innocent civilians. I mean, that just kind of blew people's minds at the time. And then you look at Iraq.
You know what I mean? Wouldn't you think that would cause such an outcry that it would be up next to impossible to send the military anywhere to kill anyone without, full-on congressional approval? But it doesn't. It never matters. Nobody gives a crap. Well, yeah. We do.
Sure. Well, yeah, I mean, and so we can, at least now point at these things and hope that they're not repeated. I look at Dick Cheney and his
Iraq for sale,
his neocon plan, along with all the other neoconservatives and enablers and power brokers and the Carlyle Group and the military-industrial complex and their Israeli and Christian right-wing partners. I mean, there's a lot of people that fed into that machine, but with that hubris, I mean, that is what we've seen over and over again. I mean, he was even at the helm during the Georgia and South Ossetia war. So Dick Cheney is he's a general. He might not wear stars, but he's a general.
Right.
So, yeah.
South Ossetia, Georgia, Chechnya. These are all places the CIA hangs out and recruits and foments anger, shall we say.
But they definitely have their fingers in the pot.
Right.
They're always there. George Soros is there. the International Crisis Group. Oh yeah, the Brookings Institute. They've got. I mean, it's just mostly it's really about providing security for Fortune 500 companies and anywhere that they are operating, and they do business. And it's one thing to get a contract in Tajikistan. It's a whole other thing to make sure that some of the crazy people that have been radicalized and that are with different militant groups or other protesters don't destroy the infrastructure that you've invested.
That's right. And all they have to do
in.
is send in one of their Islamic mercenaries from Al Qaeda or some other group, just to make a little bit of waves, and then we get to open up a military base there. Then we get, what I'm saying? Then we get to come in there and open up a drone base. And incidentally, we're supposedly the war in Afghanistan is over, but yet there's still brand new deployments going on to Afghanistan left and right. And so they're going to remove some troops, but they're upping the ante on drone mechanics and things like that. They're all being redeployed back to Afghanistan.
Right. Well, I mean, look at this. This is a good example. An Israeli official, one of the ones, many of which I guess don't want to be put on the record, but saying Assad is preferable to the extremist rebels. The Times of London was reporting this morning that was out of Herat. So I think that even the dictators that we are ousting aren't nearly as bad as the monsters that are being created by this war, permanent now war on terror.
The rebels who share our values, according to Mittens Romney.
Yes.
It's like, really? Whose values are you talking about that these rebels that behead and, and
is this
kill?
Is this a recent statement that he made, or?
That was during the election campaign season. Remember Mittens when he was
oh, yeah.
When Syria first started. Yeah, he was saying that, we only support and fund those rebels who share our values, which is Al-Qaeda, and they don't share our values, only the values of the CIA and the elites, the power brokers, and the filth that run our government and military and major corporations and central banks.
So is there anybody that's a good guy out there that you like? Because you eliminated
I like
billions
Doug
of people
Owen.
There you go.
And the list is very short.
There you go. Well, I mean,
as far as world leaders, no, not. They're all corrupt. Even the ones that we like are corrupt. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's if you're in the system,
well,
if you're
right,
a politician anywhere in the world, you're corrupt. You're a scumbag. You take money from the highest bidder. Whatever comes down, you do what you're told. If you get a chance to punish your enemies with your position, you do. If you get a chance to reward your friends, you do. You're just a corrupt piece of dung.
I think the only alive politician I would say that wasn't or doesn't meet that definition may be Jimmy Carter. I think Jimmy Carter was actually a generally nice guy.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I mean,
anywho,
those people definitely get to the top.
He got CIA'd. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They decided to bring in, I fully believe that in the deepest recesses of my soul that George Bush Sr., HW, is one of the most evil men on planet Earth. And, he was the head of the CIA, and he probably orchestrated, the whole thing with Jimmy Carter, with the Iranian, the debacle that was the rescue attempt in Iran.
The hostage crisis, yeah.
Yeah, the hostage crisis, which obviously was the end of any hope that Jimmy Carter had of, being reelected. And then we got Reagan. Well, then we got Bush for the next 20 years.
Right. Well, yeah.
Even when Bill Clinton was president, Bill Clinton and the Bushes, they come from the same bloodline. They rape the same little boys. You know what I mean? They smoke the same crack from the same sources. They get their money from the same Al-Qaeda, Bin Laden groups and
bankers and yeah. Well, yes, Jim.
It's easy to say, but can you prove any of that? Well, hell yeah, it's easy to prove.
These are just broad, sweeping accusations. That's okay. I mean, I think most of the people that listen to this podcast will at least appreciate the candid response.
Kind of being fun.
Yeah. Well, we're looking at a lot of stuff, and you see these people that recurrently show up and crime after crime after crime. The Bush crime family is one that I find to be particularly repugnant, but with anything, I mean, I like to lay specific crimes at specific people's feet rather than just painting things with this broad global conspiracy brush, and because it is absolutely true, but you have to kind of, I think, you look at it more intellectually. I mean, let's look at George Bush. I mean, what did he believe? I think that when you look at his 1,000 points of light speech, he said, look, we need a new world order. We don't want the lawlessness. We want the rule of law. Not that he really cares about the rule of law. He just wants power.
Well, he wants us to be under the heavy hand of the rule of law. And that's easy to say, dude, because everybody knows he's above the law.
Well, yeah, absolutely. What you want and what you do to accomplish that may be completely different. And I see him saying, okay, look, we can't control this guy. We have him buying into the economy, and Panamanian banks are building Miami and are funding paramilitary forces that are stronger than the U.S. government. So we have to check this guy. He was very useful as a CIA asset, but we have to check this guy. We have to get him out. We have to seize these banks. And so, was it about the drug money? Was it about creating this black pool of cash for the CIA? Absolutely.
Partially.
But there's so many.
It was
other
about
aspects.
having our boy there. Panama is one of the most important. Listen, it's one of the most, bar none, other than maybe the Persian Gulf, or the Straits of Hormuz. The Panama Canal is one of the most important pieces of real estate on this planet.
Yeah,
because it cuts the trip around South America, and it is like I said, it's one of the most important pieces of real estate on the planet.
Highly coveted and very highly politicized, and the landscape was destroyed by the U.S. bringing in slave labor. It's changed the whole landscape. It's destroyed the culture by bringing in people from other. I mean, it's just it's a long story of really bad foreign policy, and this idea that that's what makes the U.S. supreme. We control these things, and so if you believe in that doctrine, that is what makes us extraordinary, then, and I'm sure people like George Bush, Dick Cheney do, then they want to make sure that power reigns.
Well, and Dougie, people think that these people have this idea that people like George Bush, Ahmadinejad, Tony Blair, any of the big leaders in Europe, or that they don't know each other, like they live in separate worlds. When you get to that level, to that top rung of the ladder, the world is a very tiny place, and you guys all know each other. The world is only huge to us out here because we, our travel is restricted, our freedoms are restricted, we're bound by laws and taxes and things like that these people aren't bound by. And when they talk about, when you have all, because it's the same bloodlines, dude. The same bloodlines go back decades and centuries, and they're all over the world. All these leaders, we get new faces, but if you look into it, they're not really new faces. They're lipstick slapped on a pig. And all around the world, these people all get together.
I'm the president. I am not.
See, they're not dictators. They're just.
If he was a dictator, he wouldn't find out about it until CNN reported it.
So I try to put myself in their position, saying, okay, well, if we want world domination, if we want to make sure that we have energy security, that we don't have other countries bucking us and trying to assume this role of, global force for good. I mean, I know it's far-fetched, but that's what they believe in the back of their minds, and they believe that if we allow. And that's what talk about Jimmy Carter. He had Panama on a path to actually re-owning and reclaiming and the transitioning of the Panama Canal into the Panamanian hands. And that all changed in
CIA wouldn't be able to get their drugs through as easy. The whole thing.
Right. Yeah, well, it's nothing new. And so, a lot of things is... as we look at them, the history, you just see it repeating over and over again. I guess that's why I'm not that shocked. I mean, people are shocked. I think that it's important to note that the IRS, this whole story was placed here this week, along with Angelina Jolie's breast
mastectomy.
The mastectomy, the breast removal, augmentation, and that's been going on for weeks and weeks and weeks. So. It doesn't make a lot of sense that she would release that this week, considering all of the other headlines from Benghazi Gate to the Barack Obama administration. People, and she is the front woman for the CFR when it comes to Africa. But the bugging of cloakrooms. So what's happening in the administration is either the media and the powers that be are targeting Barack Obama, or they're wanting to place more blame on the administration. But this is nothing shy of what Richard Nixon did, and I don't know.
Richard Nixon didn't do a fraction of what Janet Napolitano has overseen in the last 4 years, with lists, with Barack Obama and his kill list and his assassination list and You know what I mean? There's people that have gone down for things that we just admit we do now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah.
It's kind of crazy, dude, some of the things that people,
the whole morality has changed in a lot of ways when, things like waterboarding were torture. Now they're enhanced interrogation tactics. So I think as the situation changes, and this is the thing, I mean, you and I are beating the drum here, but I talk to people all the time. They believe, well, sometimes you have to do what you have to do. I don't know if you saw that video of the cop. He was saying that, to invade your home and to deny you your constitutional rights is something that they just have to do nowadays to maintain freedom in this country. That's the price you pay, I think.
You can't be free,
for being in a free country. Yeah.
You can't be free if you don't let us do this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because, them terrorists hate you for your freedom. Really. They hate me because they don't hate me. They don't hate you for drone bombing a church and then double tapping it. The rescue workers when they came in to pull people out of the rubble. They don't hate you for that. They hate me because I'm free.
Right.
And people buy that. Yeah, they hate us for our freedom. Great America, yeah.
Boston strong, baby. Boston strong.
What? Didn't that? I mean, that is the epitome of lunacy. You look at the street, where the final battle between the bombers and the police happened. And the people are cheering it, but I seen this video, of somebody talking to some of these people, and as you walk down the street, there's, that street was, dude, the houses on both sides of that street are just riddled with bullet holes. People are sitting there on camera. Oh yeah, they blew off our mailbox, and there's 3 holes in my door, and a couple of windows upstairs broken, but they got their man. What?
Yeah.
I mean, it was all the shooting was done by cops. Cops were shooting each other, and there was thousands and thousands of troops just kicking in doors and yanking people out of their house.
Right. I mean,
and they salute. They're like, yes, we got those terrorists, though.
Oh my God. Well, this week the fire chief, they voted him out. They gave him the vote of no confidence. I don't know if you saw that, but
I think I missed.
I think that he may have known more of what was happening. Maybe he stepped on some toes, but they were making a big story. And I mean, what do you do nowadays? You just cower. You wait for the feds. Do you wait for the DOD? What do you do in this situation? But when it comes to the amount of overtraining that's happening with these police officers, okay, this is a small bomb. Killed a few people. Bad deal? Absolutely. Scary? Sure. Real scary. Let's just pretend for a moment that it was completely organic and just think about this from a response standpoint. If you're just looking at the situation as it is. Okay, so he's killed 3 people. Okay, we need to get this guy. We need to get this guy. Okay, do we just lock down the city anytime there's a murder? And I think about it. I mean, anytime that what's the difference? Because this was scary, because the media hyped it up, because it was an explosive. Because
they got tons of play out of it. You were I didn't actually catch the show last night, but you said you were going to talk about it doesn't even matter that everybody can look at it and go, that is the strangest thing. There's no way that could have happened the way they told us. But it doesn't even matter, just like 9/11 with Boston. Anytime you question what happened there, anytime you say, well, some of those injuries look like people that were, playing as, crisis-type actors in some sort of a drill that they, actually went and claim. You know what I'm saying? But they actually do.
The thing is that, I think that somebody like myself, I enjoy looking at all aspects of it, and I think it's important to have people, and they always do, when there's any incident like this, analyzing the initial reports. But at the same time, you have a lot of people that just propagate silliness. And so average people that go to the internet looking for it, and not to mention the fact that the CIA is putting out its own its own conspiracy theories that it can later debunk. So that's the next level of it. They're
I
also
know,
putting out
isn't that crazy?
they're putting out more and more disinfo, intentionally changing all of the numbers. So then you have like 50 inaccurate stories, and so even though one of those may have a nugget of truth, it just gets buried in the over amount of coverage. So it's hard
they
for
wait
people.
for it to come out on InfoWars and then they debunk it. No, I'm just kidding. But isn't it funny, dude?
Yeah.
Do you notice that already? If you're like on Facebook or you're somewhere and you start talking about, because they actually really were running a bomb drill at the Boston Marathon. There's no way that you can deny that. And if you mention it, all of a sudden, every person you run into had, it was their brother that got their arm blown up. Tell that to my sister, my friend, a guy I work with. It's like, really? 3,000 people in the World Trade Center, and every person in America is somehow is related to him, it's the same thing. 3 people died in Boston, but just about everybody in America knows a guy that was there. Tell that to my Uncle Ted. He was in the audience. He was right there and saw the whole thing. Bull crap. Yeah. I saw the planes hit the building. I know what happened. No, you don't.
Well, I make sure that I have my facts, and I lightly spread them out there. And I think that's the best thing to do. Like the bomb drill. Specifically, it was at the library. It wasn't there. But I think the big issue that I had with this, and most people that have done anything in public service or have ever been part of a public event know that you do not do drills during huge events, because that could mess them up, and there's a lot of corporate sponsors. There's a lot of money there. There's a lot of tension. The media's there. You don't want to get fired because you're doing some ridiculous drill when the Boston Marathon is going on. Not just that, but you could confuse people and end up getting shot because there's going to be an amped up level of military and police presence and private security presence. I mean, you have politicians and you have famous people there. There's going to be lots and lots of private security contractors, period. They don't talk about it, but that's a given. That's going to be the
and they use
people.
it. Sandy Hook, doesn't matter if it's an operation. They used it. It changed the entire tone. And I've been saying this for, at least 7 or 8 months now, that they're that the way things were shaping up politically here in America is that we're looking at maybe even violent clashes in terms like coup and military takeover here because of the way. And I saw it about five.
What are you talking about, though?
The way like that the GOP talks about Barack Obama, the way people are, present. It's now not just two parties. It's now Barack Obama is a Muslim who's taken over America now. And now the GOP needs to come in and not just be reelected, but maybe we need to get rid of, maybe we need to take over our government. It's getting kind of crazy if you have to look at it. I mean, they play
Here's
it
the
out
bottom line for all of that. There's always crazy people that want to take over the government, and there's been anarchists.
You're right.
There's always that. But what happens is that it only becomes popular when people don't have jobs and they see the government and the people.
Like the Depression.
Right. Well, sure. So what happens is people get really upset and they start seeing the hypocrisy, and they start seeing how it's unfair, and they're being taxed to death, and they can't get a job, and they've got degree. I mean, at some point, if growth doesn't outpace destitution and bankruptcy in this country, then it will happen. But it's all about people being comfortable. As long as they're in debt, but they can have a job, they can pay their debt and live a decent life, or at least feed themselves.
Yeah.
Then
they become oblivious.
It's fine. I mean, people will just keep on going along. Okay, it's
keep
cool.
on keeping on.
I mean, you go back, 7-8 years ago, when we started, when I started blacklistednews.com. You couldn't even bring up an article saying, hey, there could be a housing crisis. People are like, what? Are you crazy? I mean, there was just no bad business news, and there was no coverage of business news in 2006, 2004 on the internet or on television that was saying anything about the implosion and this derivatives debt bubble and shadow banking. It was completely absent. The only place you could hear that was in alternative media. I mean, it just wasn't out there. Now, it's a whole niche. There are thousands of blogs dedicated to just business, economics, and looking at the Grand Depression and the fall of the dollar. I mean, there was none of that death and destruction ideology being propagated a few years ago. So, but there's always going to be people that are going to be really upset if they don't have a job. And you just look at the Golden Dawn, their rise to power in Greece. Why? Because people are like, well, maybe they're right about those darn Muslims. We better get rid of all of them and throw the Jews out as well, and all of the other foreign invaders. Because everybody's basically.
Because the answer is always to round people up. That's always the answer. We got to round. Somebody's got to be rounded up.
These are the other people that you have to fight when they're throwing bread from the trucks, right? So you're not fighting other kings and queens and the people that have made these decisions. You're fighting other people in your community for those jobs, for those crumbs that have been left. And so that's why you can see it. It's visual. And so people say, oh, what's these illegal immigrants? I mean, there's plenty of them where I live, and people point the blame at them, not the policies, not the people that actually profit from them or enable them. So, there's always misplaced blame. And I think that's what this week was really all about, Jim. Just a lot of misplaced blame, a lot of drama, a lot of saga.
A lot of hemming and hawing, a lot of stories about how we didn't hear about this until you did.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
We didn't
know.
So
really, Benghazi came out. So the thing about Benghazi, the IRS, just all these scandals, even Fast and Furious is popping back up this week.
No, yeah,
because he's being subpoenaed. Holder's being subpoenaed.
We all remember Eric Holder from this famous one.
We need to do this every day of the week and just really brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way.
And the way you can do that is you pump
some kids in a school
tons of weapons into the narcosphere in South America and just watch them mutilate rival gangs.
Yeah.
And
what do you think is going to happen when them 20,000 M16s that were stolen from an armory in Kuwait? What do you think? What kind of carnage is that going to turn up? They're going to turn up sooner or later. Well, or were they? You think they just went straight to black op operation or?
I think that they just Blackwater got in trouble and subpoena indicted, and I think been ruled in this for criminal intent to distribute weapons or smuggle weapons, something like that. So I mean that's a problem. It's hard to get it because you have all these conventions. You have all of these treaties that you have to kind of tiptoe around
right.
to get weapons around to all of the people that you want. So you usually just have to sell them to a government through Jordan or some other. I got popping. Let me see.
That's the chat. I don't know if that's me.
It could be me. I had my gate open. But anyway, so that's kind of the plan. And so Fast and Furious has made people this is what happens. They start looking at these stories and they're like, this whole war on drugs is a complete joke. HSBC, this huge banking scandal. I mean, hundreds of billions of dollars being laundered legally with the government's knowledge.
The BOA, yeah.
Well, no, HSBC.
Oh, HSBC.
I mean, so it totally, completely destroys any validity to the war on drugs. People will say, well, why are you putting kids in jail for a doobie when you're taking money from murderers?
Literally billions.
So you get enough people that kind of see this, and that's definitely you now. I don't have anything open.
All right, got
it. They become, first they become confused, then they engage in cognitive dissonance, and they either come to the truth, okay? They either come to the realization because it's just it's common sense. It's just logic. Or you engage in cognitive dissonance and you just turn the TV back on and pretend that you didn't see all that and somehow that this is really warm and fuzzy and we can Can't we just watch baseball again and just play fantasy sports and forget about all of this?
Yeah. Can't we just get back to fantasy baseball?
Yeah. Can't we?
What about NASCAR?
Yeah.
What's Jimmy doing?
Well, and I understand that, because if you turn on the television and you start watching cable news, you start watching the nightly news, you get berated with this, and you just get so angered because these stories are just created to get people upset. Angelina Jolie and her story here. I don't know if you caught wind of this, but the upcoming U.S. Supreme Court decision to rule on a patent viability for breast cancer gene. So basically, there's a big patent, and she's getting paid for this PR stunt. So this is a well-planned PR campaign. Angelina Jolie's announcement and its carefully crafted language had four notable immediate impacts. One, it caused women everywhere to be terrified of breast cancer through the publishing of false statistics.
Yeah, so she had her breast removed in advance.
Oh, man. I mean, people... Yeah, that's what
That's
happened.
got women going nuts, dude. Thinking, "Oh my God!"
all over the social media, and so there's a lot of awareness to this now, and
so they're all out there getting mammograms, totally forgetting the story that came out, earlier in the very beginning of this year that links mammograms to breast cancer.
Well, did you hear about MYGN, the Myriad Genetics Corporation? It caused their stock price to skyrocket to a 52-week high. So this is and there's a chart there that we got from Natural News, and it shows their stock, and it just shot up. I mean, this was a well-crafted, corporate-sponsored story, and so people are. I think a lot of people see through this, but oh my God, they've really conned like teenage girls, and even in my circle of friends, people that are in our family and other, ladies and gents that we know and my wife talks to on Facebook, they're like, "Oh my God, she got her boobs. I'm so thinking about it. It's just like, oh man, it works. It works so well.
It does, man.
They're able.
Edward Bernays, thanks, buddy.
You try to counter it, and people are like, "What? Do you support breast cancer?" Of course not.
I support real medicine and cures.
I'm like every other heterosexual man, and I love a nice set of breasts.
Yeah, and she had a nice rack. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I mean, come on, man.
Well, she might have already. I would figure that she already had fake breasts, but
probably. I mean, Tomb Raider. Come on.
Yeah, but nobody talks about. Well, let's talk about let's talk about really saving some breasts here, and let's talk about
cannabis.
No, implant awareness. Nobody wants to talk about that. No, well, yeah, you shouldn't stick poisonous plastic things in your chest. Your body tries to compensate and react to it, and to actually push it out, to reject it in many cases, and that'll get you cancer pretty quickly. You start having white blood cells collect to try to fight something that your body perceives to be a tumor or something of the like. I mean, so we're not going to talk about how you could save a lot of breasts by not getting breast implants, which I think, there's just no money to be made there.
Right.
There's only money to be lost in the medical industry, and that just doesn't make a lot of sense to a lot of people. So.
Ground broke on this new $3.4 billion Homeland Security complex this week.
Oh, really?
Just what we needed. You know what I mean? Kids not learning in school, people starving in the streets, but we need a $3 billion Homeland Security complex. Remember, there was a congressional study that came out, or maybe it wasn't congressional, but the study came out maybe about 4 months ago that showed that Homeland Security is completely ineffectual, a total waste of money. But here goes $3.4 billion in a new complex.
Well,
and it looks like a small city, really.
Well, they've got a new plan, and this is something that hasn't been picked up by a lot of media at all. I just saw the alternative media re-breaking this story from the Long Island Press. But in a nutshell, the DOD, and if you go to blacklistednews.com, you can find the headline there that breaks down. Let me see. I've just had this thing up, but it's important. But the DOD is basically saying that through the power that is vested in Barack Obama, through executive action, that they can supersede the governors and states and other elected officials and use military force to engage the people during insurrections, rebellion, during certain cases of extreme domestic violence, and a few other reasons. And they say that this is in alignment with posse comitatus, and that so this is a renewed definition, and putting this out really does symbolize that they are preparing for
civil unrest, dude. For civil
unrest.
Disturbances.
Sure. Well, the economy, I mean, all of this takes away from what's happening there, the desperation.
Well, and the thing that they don't talk about is what, during these civil disturbances, right? Mm-hmm. The police are there, but they're not there to protect the citizens. They're there to protect corporate interests. The citizens are going to have to protect themselves, whether you're part of this civil disobedience or civil disturbance or not. The police aren't going to be there to protect you and or your property or loved ones.
Yeah, let's see. It's
you see, they couldn't protect anybody during the L.A. riots after Rodney King. What the hell makes anybody think that the police are going to be able to protect them when the economy starts to fold in half? People are, even the commercial, all the commercials on TV say, due to the fact that the economy has picked up, mortgage rates are going up, blah, 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 blah. Never once mentioning the fact that we haven't ended any kind of recession. We've moved into a full-on depression. People who have a job right now are lucky, but their jobs are not secure. Nobody's job in America is secure right now.
And I don't think people feel secure. And so the government doesn't feel that you are trustable. They don't feel secure. And that's why they have put together, this is 10 USC Chapter 18, Military Support for Civilian Law Enforcement Agencies. And Title 10 talks about the Armed Forces, Subtitle A, General Military Law, and the Organization and General Military Powers. So here you go. I'm going to read this verbatim. Authority for joint task forces to provide support to law enforcement agencies conducting counterterrorism activities. Authority. A joint task force of the Department of Defense counter-drug activities may also provide, subject to all applicable laws and regulations, support the law enforcement agencies conducting counterterrorism activities. So now drug activities are counterterrorism activities, so the U.S. military can go after maybe dispensaries, maybe individuals, drug dealers, drug runners. They can engage, and this might be a good thing, one good thing in some people's minds. I'm still out on it. I don't think that I think that it's a non-solution, but you could have them on the military or on the borders, protecting the citizens that live all along the Mexican border. That may be something, but the Department of Homeland Security is already there, so it's going to be something that is initially brought out, politicized, and probably won't do a whole lot. So that's my thought on that. But anyway, so it goes on to the support of counterterrorism. But there's some pretty interesting items here that it specifically says, and it gives it it even talks about posse comitatus. Let me see, make sure they haven't changed this original piece, because it's not lengthy, but it is probably 5 pages. But this is also about getting equipment, military equipment, tanks to the people. Department of Defense personnel made available to a civilian law enforcement agency under this subsection may operate equipment for the following purposes. Here you go. So you're going to have the military doing detection, monitoring all communications and movement of air and sea traffic, detection, monitoring, and communications of the movement of surface traffic outside the geographic boundary of the United States. So they're going to be operating in and out of the United States. Aerial reconnaissance. You're going to have drones, interception of vessels of aircrafts detected outside the land area. Don't fall over, Jim. You're gonna cough a lung up. See, kids, you don't want those. You don't want those Marlboro Reds. Tell you what, you could smoke them for 18 years and throw them down. You sound like Jim over there. But anyway, I mean, this thing is just all-encompassing, and basically it's funding and allowing for drugs, for just about any kind of reason, the U.S. military to engage the public. So it's just really a slap in the face for the whole Posse Comitatus Act, and it undoes it by saying that it's in alignment with it, which is ridiculous.
So what do you think? I mean, where do you see them using this, or is it just one of those things that just whenever they need to, now they can?
I think that when you look at what happened at Boston, this is the reaction to Boston. This is where they said, well, we there's nothing that the U.S. military could do. And we would have handled it better. We wouldn't have just gone door to door pulling people out of their homes like the police department. This is an overreaction, and it's regrettable. And so, if you would just let us take care of this, you don't have to worry about the thug police officers that are not trained to handle these special types of events. So it's really this self-fulfilling prophecy. When the cops overreact, then the military says, well, we could do it better. We could help you out. We would, handle this in a much more pragmatic way.
Right.
And so people are like, yeah, that's a good idea.
Under NORTHCOM, maybe?
Well, look at what happened during Hurricane Katrina. I mean, you had militias, you had the police department that pretty much dissolved. You had troops on the way. You had a political crisis where the governor didn't necessarily want to cede sovereignty, and of course the Bush administration saying, "Look, we want this. This is what you're going to have to do." So rather than just saying, "Hey, we need to make this happen," you had politics. So that can be a problem when you have maybe somebody like a Rick Perry or your current governor Cuomo. Cuomo. He's out of touch.
You know what I don't get is how everybody in New York can hate this guy. 63, dude. That's nearly 80% of all the counties in New York State can pass resolutions against the SAFE Act, but nothing's done, and he'll probably, you know what I mean? But he's out there just as crazy as he wants to be.
And see, that makes the case for saying
anything. Yeah, we're watching. Better get used to it. Oh, no, that was Bloomberg.
No, well, it makes the case that, well, the military might need to supersede these wacky people. You don't want Jan Brewer messing up, and not providing aid. So if Hurricane Katrina is a lesson to be learned, and I think it is, and it's basically you should realize that the U.S. military, the local police departments, they are not going to do the right thing. So you're basically on your own in those kind of situations.
Does it matter if it's does it matter if it's a Marine or special op, Army special ops, or a guy with, in a black suit with a machine gun from your local precinct that's kicking your door in and dragging you out by your hair?
Not that moment, really doesn't.
I guess it doesn't.
Yeah.
How about, yeah.
It really probably feels the same, regardless of the badge or non-badge that person is wearing or not wearing. Probably doesn't matter a lot at that moment. But yeah.
Well, so, yeah. And it allows, dude, it'll look just, I don't know, man. I just keep thinking 1938, 1939, Nazi Germany. We were all in love. The United States was in love with Hitler. All our banks and major corporations loved that guy.
Well,
until he declared war on America, I guess. I don't know.
Well, yeah, but we also had eugenics flourishing in the United States, and they were sterilizing people for petty crimes. I mean, there was a lot of weird things that happened during that time. The early 30s before the crash, or from 1900 to 1933 or so. That was a
roaring
really
20s.
Yeah, that was a really interesting time that was very dangerous. And there were, people like George Bush's grandfather that wanted to institute fascism in this country. There were still a lot of people that were saying, hey, man, we still had we liked what we saw here, but once we started seeing more globalization, people started saying, hey, man, it's not bad over there. Maybe we should have some, maybe especially after, the rise of Germany, maybe we should be doing things like that. But a lot of that was still, based on racism and, putting people in gulags and, still kind of that way today. But when you look at how we did business, and how stupid the people in this country really were, they fell for reefer madness. I talked about that the other day.
Yeah,
not that bright.
Well, there was a whole plethora of other propagandic films and presentations and articles and clips that came out. You know what I mean? They went full force on hemp and marijuana and. Right. People wonder, well, why was it? Was it all, there is no just one answer to any of these things because everybody, all these elites, they can all use everything their own little, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Any event, anything that happens, they can all make, if you get to a certain rung on the ladder, everything is profitable. It doesn't matter. So they all buy, but you look at all the major corporations and you look at, the shift from homeopathic to allopathic medicine, which is just pure chemical cocktails of poison. Not only that, but the fact that now we, for the last 80 years, we've been cutting down forests and we've been, poisoning people with chemicals and replacing fiber that's non-toxic. Most of the world's canvas and rope and things were made from hemp at one point. Not that I have this overwhelming, desire to lose vinyl in my life or things like nylon, but I'm just saying, we shipped hemp is just one subject where, just when you got to that top, the elites have just made out like bandits over that prohibition. You know what I mean? The paper industry, the medical industry, all these industries, really. Mm-hmm. And now they refuse to talk about it as a viable, solution to, cutting down our rainforest, to polluting the air when hemp is completely carbon neutral. It doesn't take a bunch of pesticide. And that's just one subject. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, it's one solution. I think the first thing is to decriminalize that. And actually, this week, the first major...
you just look at the power of propaganda.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. People they're going to believe the so-called experts. And, I think that it's really hard to kind of wrap your mind around that, hey, we've been wrong so many times before. Maybe we're wrong this time. People just, I don't know. That's just the way it is. There's always going to be a certain contingent of people that are just disconnected for whatever reason, and that's fine. You don't have to have every person totally aware. And I think that when you look at politics today, a lot of the problems could be that we do have so many people that profit from these decisions, and that wasn't really the original intent of the system. But then again, it was, very rich and well-off, aristocrats that kind of created this country. So they didn't even want a Congress. They didn't want a House for the people because the people aren't the brightest. And, you don't want the general citizenry, the people of Walmart making decisions and steering the course or the path for the future because they're just not that informed. And so there may be something to be said for that. I think that in my mind, people ultimately know what's right regardless of how much information, and they can make the right decision over and over again. In time, in history proves that. So I don't believe that you need this malevolent behind the scenes sinister guidance to bring us to the modern age. I think that people can figure it out just fine for themselves.
Well, and even
as dim-witted as they may seem, or just what it is that most people are malnourished. Most people are dehydrated, and especially people that don't have a lot of money or people that have too much money, they don't have time. They don't have time to look at a lot of the things that are going on, or even if they do, that doesn't necessarily change what they do.
That
in
don't
their day-to-day
confront
life.
them.
Right.
Well, and you can tell, listen, was it last year that the Supreme Court, pretty much gave the military the go-ahead to use full-on military propaganda on our TV airwaves and the military channel, and you can just see that it works. It works. We can send troops anywhere, and we can drone bomb anyone. And
Iron Man 3.
Iron Man 3, that's just coming out now.
Black Hawk Down. I mean, we can just go through all of them.
We could just go over and over, the battle.
But the thing I always find funny and people find really offensive, and I like saying to people, is that, hey, when they talk about the glorification of guns, maybe it's because we show them that police officers and the military solve the problems that they have with guns. And they're like, oh, that's just ridiculous. People get upset about it. They're like, well, what are they going to do? I'm like, well, I'm just saying.
And they glorify it to the point where, you go to school, you got kids in school being arrested and thrown in jail and taken out of school for making, for chewing their Pop-Tart in such a manner that it might resemble a gun. And we're telling them that they have to be tolerant, that they can't hit each other, that they can't slap, that they can't be mean to each other, that they can't say, hurtful and mean things. But we have military recruiters in our high schools that come in and say, hey, you want to go get some evildoers? Here we are. And we got, and the police and the military, and they're out there drone bombing old ladies and children.
We praise them for the wrong reasons. Yeah, all of those things they should be not why we celebrate or why we want police officers. Those should be the reasons why they should not focus on that aspect. Now it's about worshiping their gun. And so we give them respect, not because we think that they are virtuous people or that they're going to help us or that they have our best intentions at heart, that they are peacemakers, although there are plenty of them. But the stereotype now is that, and it has been for a long time, is that the only reason that you give this guy respect, it's not because he's a good person necessarily. It's because he is a cop and he's got a gun and he'll shoot you, and you better just shut up and put your hands in the air and do whatever he says.
Well, that's why most people pay taxes.
Right. So, I mean, if you have...
Well, that's why most people pay...
So that's why people respect
60 to 70% of their taxes. Yeah, and that's why people respect the cops and the military.
And if you listen to gangster rap or something else, they tell you should fear me because I will shoot you. I have a gun.
I got a gat.
I've got a gun and I will kill you. And so so basically you should represent my hood, my gang, my clique. And I mean, that's cop mentality. You better represent or respect my gang. I'm representing with my gun. And if you don't like it, shoot you in your face. You better shut up or you're going to pay me money. See all this money I got? It's because I gave you tickets. Yeah. So
I got a ticket the other night.
Oh, really? For what?
Loud. for loud muffler, inappropriate equipment, they say.
Inappropriate equipment?
Yeah, I'm like, dude, what do you mean, man? I have two mufflers. I don't have just one muffler. I have two mufflers.
So
it's just a scam.
The Camaro is too loud, huh? Just too loud for the people of upstate New York. Can't deal with it.
Oh, it's just it's the cops. If they get a chance to hand you a citation and make a little bit of money, because they all have quotas. Don't let anybody fool you. They all have quotas, and and we do glorify these people, and it's only out of fear, man. It's and not that people wouldn't pay taxes. If it weren't at the point of the gun, people sure as hell wouldn't pay taxes at the rates that we have now, where just about, I mean, really more than half of all the money you'll ever make in your entire life, you'll give up and you'll pay to the government, various states and governments, federal government, in taxes. People have always paid some sort of a tax. Taxes are a lot older than just the United States. It's the point where now that these taxes are they're funding and supporting such a large group of elite, ticks and bloodsuckers that's when they need all these new protections from us.
Well, yeah, and taxes keep people keep you shaking your butt because you can't just sit on something. You can't just own it. You have to keep on making money. Even if you buy a house, even if you buy property in this country, you have to keep paying money. So you have to make it and generate it somewhere, or allow others to generate money from whatever it is that you end up owning. I mean, if you just want to own 1,000 acres, doesn't seem like a lot of like land, or I mean, it's a good chunk of land, but you wouldn't think that you would have to be somebody in government or a corporate mogul to have that. You would think that somebody that has a good amount of money could have that. I couldn't even afford the taxes, much less the actual cash to buy something like that. And I don't think that I'm doing all that bad comparatively to people, especially globally. But I mean, even in the U.S., I don't do horrible, but I mean, most people.
You're not in the elite category.
By far not, my friend. By far not. You've been to my home. You understand. Yeah. I mean, we're not living on. This isn't the.
Once you buzzed me through the gate, everything was cool.
Right, but on the other side, of the 3-mile driveway, it's no good over there. You don't want to be over there after dark. It's scary. But my point being is that it's really hard to have people that own things in this society anymore, just because you have to be ultra wealthy. And when you have everybody that's just on the plantation, just kind of renting their way through life, most of what they do is going to be focused on that. It's very Pavlovian. It's just a matter of keeping people doing things because they have to. You get out of, I mean, if you're a smart guy, you get out of college. If you didn't have a free ride, or your parents didn't pay for your college, you have to get some job you probably won't like. You're not going to change the world. You're not going to do something super creative because you just don't have the time to. I feel like that all the time. There's just so many things I could do and so many really awesome projects that I could take upon myself if I just had more time. But we're all in a race for that. And, keeping a roof over your head, that takes a lot of time. And so, if you go to China, you have even less time to think about your revolution, to think about really anything. But, modern day America.
You got to feed your family, man.
Yeah. That is true.
Around the world, you got to feed your family.
So
that leaves people who have made it to a point where they don't have to feed their family, or where feeding their family isn't the overriding, concern in their life anymore. Then this is what we get, I guess. But dude, there's always been a ruling class. There's always been an elite ruling class. Mm-hmm. As far as written history or written, histories orally or written, there's always stories of the elites and the power structure since Hammurabi.
Yeah, that's why I think that it's an issue. I think that I would like the elite. I think people worry more about the elite than they do about their own lives and people that are there. But
just they worry about the elite, while their kids are eating cat food and sleeping on the floor. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess I worry about it, but I'm more worried about people that it's not. See, that's the difference between.
Still got to feed my family. I can worry about all that all I want, but I do still got to feed my family.
Well, but here's the thing: if you're upset about them because of who they are, because they have lots and lots of money, then you just have sour grapes. Oh, I'm mad at this person because they've been given something. Yeah, they had a platinum spoon in their mouth when they popped out of the womb. There's people that are going to be like that, and if you were really, really rich, your child wouldn't have a choice in that either. But it's, to me, it's not about hating people because they have more than me. Obviously, there's a lot of people out there that I would have to hate, and there's a lot of people that would end up hating me if they were in that situation too. Dad, do you have third worlders? They would hate all Americans, people even like yourself, Jim, as lavish a lifestyle as you live.
Yeah, the lavish lifestyle I live.
So,
well, I do have two
it's
cars.
not about just hating people or wanting to right the wrongs of somebody that just has too much power. And I think that there's a big problem with that, where people are more concerned with what others have, and it becomes more gossipy. It's rather than what's right, what's wrong, what's criminal, and what should be prosecuted, what needs to be brought to light, what needs to be talked about, and what doesn't. And that's all you can really control. Do I talk about what Snooki did today? No. And I'm not going to, even if I knew, which I don't. But the point is that you can control certain things and you can't control other things. And so the only thing that I try to do in my life is just become more informed, make better decisions, and hopefully do the right thing, try to live virtuously, and hopefully I will make it through. And thus far, 35 years in, I think just working hard and trying your best, and being true to yourself and others, you'll do just fine in this new world order, no matter how parasitic it is at the top. But from the bottom up, I think it's all about perspective. I think
you can't let that be an excuse to not be a good man. You know what I mean?
Right.
A lot of people use that as an excuse to not care about what they do or who they step on, because it's a dog eat dog world. Or I don't subscribe to that myself.
Yeah.
I feel like I'll just be a good man regardless. Regardless of how many times that I get bit by it, I'll still be a good man. And not that I always was. I've done some things that that I'll never do again, obviously. But just if you just try, I don't know if I've ever lived a virtuous life, but I just try to be honest. And
well, my life isn't all that virtuous, but I don't kill people or
me either, and I wouldn't. And that's my big beef. I don't have a beef because there's people better off than me, or there's guys that were born, born with a platinum spoon in their mouth and they had a Mercedes baby carriage or whatever. That, I don't care about that. What I care about is, the fact that, I pay taxes and my tax money is used for things that I don't agree with, that I don't approve of. I would never kill a person. I'm not concerned with vengeance and retribution. I'm more concerned with with making things right. With there is something to be said for justice and things like that. Yeah, absolutely. And there is social justice and things like that. But I can live the most virtuous life in the world, but my beef with government isn't that they're better off than me. It's that they by proxy represent me around the world, and that's my problem. And that's why I stand up on the mountaintop and scream it as loud as I can when I get the chance.
Well, that's one of the few things that we have in this country that I cherish and we don't see in a lot of other countries, and that is the right to talk crap about our government. So if you can at least speak to the crimes that are being committed, you have a lot. I mean, that's something that a lot of people do not enjoy in their own little paradises. I don't care if you go to Costa Rica or somewhere that you expatriated to South America. Be critical of the local government and see where that gets you.
See what happens.
See if you don't have a knock on your door, if you're not just assassinated. So at least here,
car bomb.
Though we got some pretty interesting stories I want to get into here in this. Right. Here's one. U.S. seizes operator accounts of major Japanese Bitcoin exchange. U.S. authorities have seized 2 accounts linked to a major operator in the booming Bitcoin digital currency market. Tokyo-based exchange Mt. Gox. The move may prevent the firm from facilitating the purchase and sale of Bitcoins in U.S. dollars at a time when the use of the currency and its value has mushroomed. So Mt. Gox is one of the big exchanges. Let me see. It's just mtgox.com if you want to look. I don't know if the website's down, but they're saying that the Bitcoins are, let's see, last price, 120. So still a huge shift, a huge rise, despite all of the negative hype and media.
Yeah, I didn't want to use it as an investment, but I certainly didn't think of it as like 3 weeks ago or a month ago, everybody was talking about how it was a complete scam and a scheme, and it's it had a correction. You know what I mean? The real value of it is was inferred by the market. And there we are, and here we are with. This is more of what its real value, and this is the the way the market works, I suppose, or it's supposed to.
I love this.
I mean, if there was a bailout, if somebody went in and just pumped tons of asset into Bitcoin, it might not have dropped. The price might not have dropped, but it's more real.
Well, and here's the thing: if it's doesn't have a nation state bank behind it, and that's what, or it's not a physical metal, so that's what makes it so unique in and of itself, regardless of whether you think it's a good idea. And I'm kind of indifferent. I think that it's great if you want to use Bitcoins, but I don't think that it's necessarily something that you want to put a lot of money into. But if you want to use them for exchange on the internet, peer-to-peer, that's great. Yeah, and if you can find good deals and people that are willing, to take Bitcoins for that, and you're tech savvy, that's great. I think there's going to be a lot of people that are always going to be hesitant and weary, and there's always going to be that shadow that's being cast by the powers that be, one of which is Reuters here. It says, the price of the volatile currency ballooned in March. So, is Facebook volatile? Is that a volatile stock? I don't know. The currency itself, I don't know. I think people want it to be static, and that it should have a state basically backing it for it to be, or an insurance company like the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation or an entity behind it. But anyway, it's laughable, and the more I look at the media and the governments and how they're reacting to this, the more I think that I like it, because they're very bothered by it. Yeah, they're trying their best to give it as much negative press as possible by saying that it's associated with drugs. U.S. dollars are being used right now to snort meth in Arkansas. Okay, nobody's saying that we should get rid of dollars. There's people in Arkansas that are doing meth right now, Doug, with those U.S. dollar bills, maybe 20s and 100s. And
smoking crack and light bulbs. We got to get rid of light bulbs.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's a great point. There's people that are wrecking cars. We need to get rid of tires. We just take it to the nth degree. But anyway, they're saying that the only reason that it had a huge balloon was because the Cyprus bank bailout, it was used as a way to let people offshore money during that time and put it into the virtual realm. And I mean, that's pretty telling, where you have so little faith in your local and national government and national banks to be able to pay you, that you will just delve into Bitcoin. Like, okay, I'll put $5 million in there, because it just seems like a big risk to me. And if I was a millionaire, which I am not, but if I was, I would be really hesitant. I wouldn't be. Even if the government was coming down, you'd be like, oh, is this a trap? I would second guess myself to death on it. But,
the whole way, yeah. I guess the key is trying to convert your digital money into real assets somehow.
Right.
I mean, a real, tangible, feelable, things that have actual mass.
So you think there's some Russian oligarch that's got like 50 pairs of Ray-Ban sunglasses because they're selling on Craigslist because he has to try to get rid of them because he bought it through a Bitcoin exchange, or
I don't know,
something convoluted like that? Okay, now I've got 35 servers at Rackspace that I can sell. Yeah.
Hey, you never know, dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't know. I thought Bitcoin, I mean, the idea of a currency that isn't manipulated by governments or central banks is appealing to me.
Yeah,
but I mean, out of convenience.
Well, you're not taxed in it, so it's not taxable. It's also
true. But if the government, suppose a government or a community somewhere around the world started taking Bitcoin for taxes, immediately the price and desirability of it would go up.
Well, sure.
I mean, I guess that's the difference. I mean, we're moving towards a cashless society. You can see almost nightly on the news and different programs, they've been pushing this the last few weeks now, this, how due to counterfeiting and fraud and all this, we need to go to straight up, digital, card currency, plastic currency. No more FRNs, no more, paper money out there. It's just too easy to counterfeit.
Right.
And it's too hard. It's too easy to do. The thing of it is once hard cash is gone, man, then secrecy is gone. You have it. Then it makes it much more difficult to buy, purchase, to transfer anything secretly. Which you should be. Why can't you? Why shouldn't I be able to? Why do I have to tell the government every time I make a transaction?
It's none of their business. Tell me what I owe you. I don't even think it's fair.
Well, it is happening. I mean, it is going to happen. The digital, the.
Well, it happened a long time ago. I mean, trillions of dollars circulate.
Most of the money is digital.
Right. I mean, it's not. It's coming. The mark of the beast is coming. It's here. It's already.
Yeah. No, you're right.
I mean, we already have plenty of examples, but. I mean, if you've got a debit card, you are part of the cashless society control grid. Yeah, so most people are.
And I am. But I still like the cash, the autonomy that comes with having a pocket full of cash.
The only reason that I don't think that they will get rid of cash is for drugs. You have to have
exactly.
They have to have untraceable money to be able to circulate so that people in private can buy drugs and conduct illegal activity. And it's very important for the economy to have illegal activity because, and I was talking about this today, actually, with a friend earlier this morning. And, he was talking about, I don't remember how we got into the conversation, actually, but the gist was that if you look at the economy, if we all had to do things by the book, there's no way anything would get done. There would actually be almost zero profit, and there would be huge stagnation in just about all growth. I mean, if every construction project was above board and every person there was not an illegal immigrant, and just go through all of the things, all of the criminality, white crimes, light crimes, whatever. The gray areas that you have to engage in just to get average stuff done on a daily basis, whether you're speeding to make sure that you can get somewhere on time. And we all have to commit lots and lots of crimes on a daily basis to get anything effing done. And so if everything was...
Well, yeah, and that's because our entire existence, our entire reality is based on growth.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It can never stop. It can never stop. And so to the extent that I don't know, at some point it's just everything's going to be covered. Well, and I'm not a eugenicist by any stretch of the imagination, but I think the economy and the current system and the way it operates only encourages that to happen. And so that's why you have the other people that are like, well, we need the scientific solution to that little quagmire. Let's put some birth control medicine in the pipelines. Let's put that in the wells. Poison the well, people. Poison it.
Well, they talked about that in Detroit, and then, the most disturbing part is the part where all the comments, those crack whores shouldn't have babies. We should be, sterilizing them. Really? Who gets to decide if somebody should be sterilized, or what if they've been sterilized but they're still undesirable? Then what? Do we need to start rounding them up? Or I find it funny how half of all the
that's
solutions
never worked throughout history, regardless of how nice it sounds. It hasn't worked, but
right.
Yeah, it's like abortion, and there was that case this week with the doctor that killed those 3 kids. They were alive. It was just just gorific. I mean, horrible stuff. But when you look at the statistics, crime has gone down in areas where you do have that, and that's because you don't. And I think personally, just to put this on the record, though it's so politicized, but I think that there are plenty of other options. There are plenty of people in this country that want kids that can't have kids that are sterilized for one reason or another. And if the process wasn't so ridiculous and it wasn't so hard to get kids, there'd be plenty of people that would want and adopt children, and there would be no reason to have abortions. Bringing a child to term, I think, is that at bare minimum that should be your lesson. Hey, unprotected sex, bring the child to term. Yeah, you're gonna have stretch marks. You're gonna pay the price for that horrible decision, and that's just my opinion. You could get that and $2.25 and get you a grande coffee at Starbucks. But
maybe not at Starbucks, but
yeah, you get the grande for $2.25.
That and $11 will get you
a
latte grande.
Only if you need a couple pumps of the sweet sauce, the sugar syrup, but the high fructose corn syrup is more like it. But my point is, that's my opinion. Are there medical reasons? Sure, there absolutely are medical reasons. But is a medical reason that you should have an abortion that you don't want to bring the child into this world because maybe some other dude that your husband doesn't know about got you pregnant? That's not an excuse. So that's my opinion on it. I'm pro-choice, but I'm absolutely pro-life. And I'm even more pro-life for the people that are actually on the planet than the people that are pro-life for the people that aren't on the planet yet. So I think that it's just kind of a shame. We talk about, that being a solution where we have so many people that are just being killed for no reason that are all lives that we could save. Every time we drop a drone, there's a lot of lost lives that could have been saved. So I'm all about focusing on the people that we're killing that are right here, breathing, looking around, and holding hopefully more people accountable. So there was a big decision. I want to play this clip. I've got this. Your tax dollars at work. The State Department has been lobbying abroad for Monsanto biotech seeds, and they've got the U.S. government pretty sewed up. In a sense, the Supreme Court ruled for them. And then I clipped this.
Supreme Court decision with far-reaching consequences for patents, food, and farmers. The Supreme Court today ruled unanimously that an Indiana farmer violated agri-giant Monsanto's seed patents.
There are certain things that the law prohibits. What it prohibits here is making a copy of the patented invention. And that is what he did.
The case brought 75-year-old Indiana farmer Vernon Hugh Bowman up against Monsanto, an enormous agricultural corporation that owns more than half the world's seed market.
I don't know that, but I could see nothing. What I done was wrong.
Monsanto requires farmers to buy its seeds genetically modified to resist this weed killer. But Bowman bought and planted second-generation seeds from a grain elevator.
If they don't want me to go to the elevator and buy that grain, then Congress should pass a law saying you can't do it.
The ruling, written by Justice Elena Kagan, says, quote, if simple copying were a protected use, a patent would plummet in value after the first sale of the first item containing the invention. The undiluted patent monopoly, it might be said, would extend not for 20 years, but for only one transaction.
Well, think about the pet rock. Okay, how many people bought the pet rock 2 times? Nobody. There's very few of these things that are rebought over and over again. They're patented. How many times are you going to buy a kazoo?
And that would result in less incentive for innovation than Congress wanted. But consumer and organic food groups say food and living things should be viewed differently.
We're not talking about the latest cell phone. We're not talking about some, fancy new technology. This is about whether people are going to be able to afford to farm and afford to eat.
The Supreme Court decision would come as a sigh of relief for companies that invent products that are able to copy itself. But when it comes to food, consumers may be paying the price. For soybeans, corn, and cotton, the cost for farmers to plant the seeds has skyrocketed. Between 1995 to 2011, the cost per acre rose 325%. This according to the Center for Food Safety.
This farmer is saying, I bought seeds that were a next generation removed from what you patented. That patent shouldn't apply here anymore, and Monsanto is saying the patent applies forever. For farmers like...
So, yeah, and here's the question. I mean, number one, this guy, he bought it from the grain elevator, so they should be culpable for this, and they should pay him back for his grain or the seeds that he bought. But the whole idea that you could patent genes, this is really, really scary, and this is basically...
Well, yeah, because that means that even if it's like 10 generations down the road, if it's got that gene, it's been patented.
And the big problem that I have is that what
if or food genes?
What if another crop cross pollinates your crop, and then later on down the road, Monsanto says, "Aha! We found a 10th generation tomato from one of our seeds. You owe us money. We're going to sue you." Yeah. So, Elena Kagan, totally compromised. Goldman Sachs, shill bag. And even if the Supreme Court says this, then the awareness that can be brought to the issue through these cases should have more and more people being hesitant and to buy products from Monsanto. And I just can't believe that they are such a huge corporation, considering that there's just this global opposition to them. I mean, I don't know anybody, and maybe it's just because I'm isolated into my circle of friends and my sphere of influence, but I don't know anybody that's like, oh yeah, Monsanto, great company, love their products.
Cargill, love them.
Yeah, Cargill, really all about it. I don't see people sporting Monsanto shirts.
I know, but where I live, although you don't see him as much now as he did like 10 years ago, every cornfield within 100 miles of me had at least either a Cargill or a Roundup sign or something, to identify their crops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, we see that here too. Dow Science Corp, I see some of those because there's lots of corn, lots of cotton, and as you go out east of central Austin, boom, you're right in the middle of farmland, and as far as you can see, there is but there's a renewed interest in the organic markets just because there's so much more money in it, and I think that's where
because they give a crap about you. Did you see the other day that the UN would come out and trying to push? They're gonna, not only are they trying to push insects, but they're trying to do it in such a way that it will coax and coerce people in the United States and other Western countries to start adding insects to their diet.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
Last week, I think it was like 4 days ago that story came out.
Reminds me of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Dr. Jones, you want to eat the worms? No.
Dr. Jones.
Yeah. No. I'm not a big fan. But here's the thing. You can't even imagine why this is. I mean, I guess when you look at Monsanto and the price of food, people will start eating crickets and start eating cockroaches and start eating other things. I mean, people do, but it's only, people that are starving. And it's kind of like, well, get ready for your new reality where you're just getting by, starving, having to, get protein from cat food or, God only knows what source. I mean, that was something big in the 80s. Old people can eat cat food. But now it's the same thing today, the modern version from the United Nations.
Yeah, because they're carbon neutral. Their cows and pigs are destructive to the planet. That was their angle. That was the angle they were taking with this article, was the fact that, cows and all the things that we consider food here in America are destroying the planet.
Well, it's because it's not because cows are killing the planet, and it's not because there's better meat than cows.
Why hasn't Texas filed a lawsuit or something? Because isn't it illegal to talk about beef in Texas, ain't it? You can't defame beef there if you talk smack about cows or beef.
No, there's no law against it. You can talk about beef. You might get chased down by the beef industry, or the cowboy mafia might come and cattle rustle you in the middle, wrangle you in the middle of the night. I don't know, but it's because of the way that they are raised. I mean, we just don't have people that have, like my dad. Here's a good example. Okay, he is 67, and they milked a cow. They had a cow in the back of the house. They milked that cow. That cow, his manure was used for gardening, and it was a very simple little system that was happening, and it was just, that was rural America. You had more equilibrium, and you had balance. You didn't have everybody being put into these compact cities. You just had people that lived out in the country, and so there was that symbiotic relationship between the cow, and they drank the milk. And my grandmother, and when I was a kid, they still did that. They still would flash pasteurize it in a pan. She had glass jars, and she would my grandfather loved warm milk, and she would pour the rest in a freaking glass jar and put it in the ice box. And
right.
So
actual ice box, man.
Yeah, an actual ice box.
Right.
But we didn't have 10,000 antibiotic. We didn't have huge feedlots where you have just all these cows that are packed together, being force-fed antibiotics that are just living in, subprime conditions that are, even downer cows, things like that were entering in the food supply. And here was the thing. I mean, every couple years they would slaughter the cow, or every other year they would get new cows and slaughter them.
Or couple chickens and a pig.
Yeah, rabbits, all sorts of stuff like that. And there were people locally that, bred rabbits and, cattle ranchers and others. So, I mean, there's always been that balance. It's only because of this, highly technology advanced society over the last, I would say, 50 to 60 years has that really changed. And then you're going to have a big problem. You're going to have nitrate problems. And not just that, but if you go to places like Colorado where they have these just huge feedlots, I mean, you smell these things from and a lot of them in Oklahoma. I mean, you find them in Texas too. There's feedlots all over the place. But when we would go to Wyoming on our way there, we would as a child, to see my grandfather, we would pass these feedlots. And before you could see them, and we're talking about land that's flat as F. I mean, just flat. You could smell them, and it was just putrid death. You're gagged by it. So, yeah, I think that's a bad thing. So that they take that, and the solution, of course, is you eating freaking
insects, pink slime.
Have a spider, kids. Mommy. A bag of spiders for you. Sorry, I can't get steak. You don't want steak. Steak's not good. It's better to eat spiders. Just the thought of that just really... I have trouble with certain, gelatinous...
well, isn't it funny? On the one hand, we're bombarded by USA, global force for good, greatest nation on the planet. And then on the other hand, we're bombarded by every single thing that we do that, every single thing that it is to be an American is evil, and it's destroying the planet, and it's decadent, and it's dirty and evil and filthy. It's like, wow.
It's like the perversion of the people, right? So to love the government, you have to engage in cognitive dissonance, and you have to be all about hurting people, right? I mean, that's kind of the message that you get. That's the most interesting thing I think about the new media, and that is how you're guilted into feeling that you're the bad person all the time. And that's what I try not to do in the podcast and the show, and just blaming people for being, you're apathetic. I mean, people that are even aware and want to go out there and do things, and they do, most of them. I talked to my father-in-law. He doesn't know about all the latest conspiracies, but he's a farmer and he's doing something good. So regardless of his knowledge base, he's providing a hell of a service that most people aren't. But it's just that we feel bad all the time for everything that's gone on, and we feel so guilty for the history, so much so that We have special months to bring awareness to different ethnic groups that we've oppressed. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. It's just this whole guilt system. You're excellent. We're better than everybody else, but there is a lot of guilt that goes with it, and that's kind of it's changed.
Yeah. And of course, the government, they make out both directions. You know what I mean?
Right.
They profit coming and going on the guilt.
Well, and then it's funny because we look at all the things retroactively or historically that have happened, but we don't take any of those things into account. And you're like, oh, well, you're just a skeptic, Doug. You're right. I mean, one thing that I will attribute to Ronald Reagan was his great quote. He said, "You have to trust but verify." I trust that people do the right thing. I put a lot of trust and faith into people, but honestly, they don't always do the right thing, and 20% of the time they don't.
Not really, man.
Yeah,
even the people closest to you in your life sometimes,
Sure, and if you can't count on people that you grew up with, you think I'm going to trust some guy at the IRS to not target me and go after me because my corporation's 501c3 name is Patriots Against Obama? No, there's nothing wrong with that. They're not going to discriminate or audit me. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Did you see this thing about the smoking gun?
I did see it.
I can't believe the FBI was watching this. This shows how paranoid the government is and how little control they may even have. People inside of the government themselves defecting and releasing information, and that's why I think, Aaron Swartz, the kid that allegedly
Aaron Swartz is my hero, dude.
Well, they were saying that he was working on a new system, a new technology for whistleblowers to anonymously give information to the media.
Yeah, encrypted so that it can't be traced back, so that it can't be stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And he was all about true freedom of information.
Well, yeah, so
information belongs to everyone,
right?
Regardless of what corporation or what entity thinks otherwise. Information belongs to every single individual human on this planet.
I like the idea. I mean, if anything, I think that it should be, and people that don't want to share their information, if they have something that could empower humanity, or if they had some new drug that would cure cancer, whatever it may be, and they didn't want to give that to the world, then you're a person that I would never want to do business with. And you're somebody that I would say is a horrible corporation and or person, and persons running the corporation are horrible and deplorable, and I would do everything I could to at least bring light to that and the debate about the legality. And it always goes to, well, do you want to screw over the inventors, Doug? Will you just tell me how many independent inventors are out there that don't immediately, sell it for a small amount of money, and how many of those, even with the current system we have today, aren't run roughshod over?
Yeah.
But anyway, there was a 44-month probe into the leak of this website, The Smoking Gun. And if you go to The Smoking Gun, usually it's just people's pictures, and I mean, they have a lot of juicy stuff there. But occasionally, but mostly it's just people that looked totally cracked out, that have done really stupid things, really, really idiotic, crazy stories that that mostly emanate from Florida. I'm just kidding, Florida. I'm just kidding, you guys. In response to the Smoking Gun's publication of a classified CIA terrorism report, the Department of Justice launched a lengthy leak investigation that included subpoenaing telephone records, interviewing dozens of government officials, polygraph and computer examinations, and a fair amount of time trying to dig up information about the site itself. According to the FBI, federal probe is detailed a bit in a significantly redacted fashion. A 682-page report of the FBI records released last month showed that
everything but the title's been redacted, blacked out.
I looked at it here, and it's just amazing. And it was it said that terrorists were recruiting, and you might have heard of this one. I actually looked at it. Public intelligence and others were helping to distribute it. Terrorist recruiting behind and operating behind bars. So it's just this BS CIA report about the Muslim extremists in the U.S. Prisons are going to be bombing the people. I mean, it's just this whole.
When all the while the CIA was recruiting terrorists through mosques here in the United States.
Right.
And radicalizing them. Not in prison.
Yeah, well, but
Not prison, man.
So it's all about this war on whistleblowers. And it's just so hypocritical of the Obama administration to continue to call themselves the most transparent administration in history.
That's why he can say. That's why he says, "I heard about it when you guys heard about it."
I guess so. It's plausible deniability.
We're transparent. I'm just regular American.
Yeah. So you want to listen to a Nigel Farage clip here? We got a few more minutes.
Let's hear Nigel Farage. He's always good. He's always good for a little chuckle.
Yeah, he is. This is from the Telegraph.
It was a demonstration dressed up as being anti-racism, but in fact in itself was deeply racist, with a total hatred of the English and a desire for Scotland to be independent from Westminster. I mean, my goodness me, if this is the face of Scottish nationalism, it's a pretty ugly picture.
You're quoted as saying, turning up in Scotland, telling everyone how much you love Scotland and what a big part of your life it's been, how sincere I am, it would all have been a lot of rubbish, wouldn't it? And isn't that the problem? UKIP isn't part of Scottish political debate in any meaningful way, and you know very little of Scotland or the politics of Scotland.
Ooh.
I'm sensing similar hatred from this line of questioning that I got on the streets yesterday in Edinburgh. We are the only UK-wide political party. We're the only party with representation in Stormont. We have representation from Wales in the European Parliament. We clearly have become quite strong in England, and we intend to start mounting serious campaigns in Scotland. No other party in UK politics.
This isn't actually what I thought it would be, but there's one thing that he's taken a lot of flack on, and that is the position on the people of Roma, and he's very he's all about putting these people in camps, and I guess that's just I don't know. I don't understand all of the bad blood, and I mean I've looked at the history, I've read it, but it's just you have all of these petty grievances that have gone back generations and generational hate and angst and a lot of that in Europe. But anyway, there's a mob. And they were trying to attack his UKIP party, and they were pissed off. And basically, he was not welcomed in Scotland by the Scottish protesters. And I don't think that it's necessarily indicative of all of them, but
because it's crap.
Well, people are pissed off about a lot of
He's
different issues.
He's not Scottish. He's crap.
It's true. They're very nationalistic.
Yeah, man.
They're
Braveheart.
Yeah. Get out of here, you British guy. Yeah, I guess I can understand that. Not really thinking that maybe Nigel Farage's party is.
I thought he was going to be. He usually talks about the EU.
Yeah, I did too. I forgot about this one. I saw it, and this is actually. He goes on. He starts calling the people fascist scumbags, and I mean it's kind of. It might be worth hearing. Let me see.
Attempts to do all of those things.
And remind me how many elected representatives you have in Scotland?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely none, but rather more than the BBC do. And, we could have had this interview in England a couple of years, although I wouldn't have met with such hatred as I'm getting from your questions. And frankly, I've had enough of this interview. Goodbye.
Oh.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. I don't like your questioning. So, anyway. Somebody putting Nigel Farage on the hot seat, which is kind of rare considering, I mean, how he bashes people. I'm surprised that he was not willing to debate. Usually the British people like to debate more and more. Oh, well.
Especially Nigel.
Let me tell you, scum. Well, it says fascist scumbag in the clip, and I was like, oh, yeah. And I need to...
Hey, how about How about Trey Gowdy calling Nancy Pelosi mind-numbingly stupid and recommends that she visit her doctor?
Well, I mean, I think he's on the money. You know,
So
actually,
do I.
here we go. You want to hear some liberals quip? People got really upset about this, and I don't know. I'm not a Bill Maher fan, but
I hate to do.
I think that it's funny because people are really like cheering on Glenn Greenwald, and I didn't realize that he was a gay Jewish guy, and that doesn't change my mind on him. I think he does some great investigative reporting, and he's actually one of the few people that advocates for the Palestinians in public that's actually published in The Guardian. So I give him that, and he tongue lashes Bill Maher. So it's just kind of. This is big news Monday or Tuesday, and that's why I had the clip of it. But it's
I missed it.
Oh yeah, people are like, oh my God, could you believe this? It was so Glenn Greenwald.
Bill Maher is such a. I don't even have a word really that I could use on him.
He's like Rachel Maddow and these other political pundits that are comedians. They hire comedians because they're quick-witted, and I'll give them that. They're quick-witted, and they can pull off jokes, and they can talk down to people, and they can always diminish whatever somebody's saying with a quick one-liner. You know, one-liner. And you're an idiot. All right, you know. So I mean, just something really quick and witty can, and that's what it's all about today. People are popular. Who can requit? You know, who's the wittiest person on the chat? The not chat room. I was going to say, but you know, on the like message boards. You see a lot of that.
Right. The forum.
Yeah, forums and stuff. You see a lot of that. I mean, chatters are just usually live talking about the content or other things, but not so much that long because you want to anyway.
It's a Supreme Court decision with
far-reaching not the Monsanto here.
What, were you playing another
clip?
clip?
We wound up with the Muslim Brotherhood. Going to Egypt, we were supporting and propping up Mubarak for 30 years.
Yeah,
even
I heard.
as we were cheering for all the Tahrir Square demonstrators as though we were on their side. It was our government that kept Mubarak in power, just like we've done across the entire Muslim world. And it's amazing for you to say that, well, look at all these Muslims. The minute you give them a little bit of freedom, they go wild and they start being all violent. How can you be a citizen of the United States, the country that has generated more violence and militarism in the world over the last 5 or 6 decades, and say, look at those people over there, they are incredibly violent? We play a significant role in what has been happening in the Middle East because we've been interfering and dominating that region in order to have access to the oil.
I wasn't talking about violence. I was talking about theocracy. That doesn't happen
here. Okay, that doesn't happen here, but at the same time, Iran isn't invading lots of other countries and occupying them for a decade, nor are fundamentalist Muslim countries the way the United States is. So these things are interlinked because we are continuously interfering in that part of the world. And so to say...
Really, it's all our fault?
It's not all our fault, but when you send your military for 6 straight decades into other countries to bomb them, kill their children and women and innocent men, prop up dictators, you take responsibility for your actions and say, to the extent that that region...
They have no response.
That religion goes back 1,000 years before our revolution, so I don't think we can take all the blame.
They always justify everything.
Take a lot of it. And there's lots of bodies and corpses that have been piled up in the name of Christianity and Judaism as well.
See, in his whole audience, you can tell if you see this.
They're paid. He pays his audience.
Well, no, they are actually turning on him. They keep clapping. They keep clapping for Glenn Greenwald, even though he's like
the 6 people there that aren't on his payroll.
Not recently.
They don't know whether to clap. They're like, yeah, we don't like the occupation.
Bank and Gaza for the last 50 years, motivated in part by
we love Bill Maher.
Views of Judaism or the wars in Europe or the fact that there were generals in the United States saying we have to go and invade and destroy Iraq, a country of 26 million people, because our God is bigger. Lots of religions, not just Islam, produce violence.
Well, if I could just make one quick point about Egypt.
That silly liberal view that all religions are alike because it makes you feel good.
No, it makes you feel good to say our side is better. Those people over there are primitive and violent.
No, it makes you feel good to put a crown on your head and say, I'm a good person. How do I prove that?
You get to ignore the responsibility that your own government has for the violence and instability in the world.
I think he's just upset because, he's a total...
he's a shill and he has no real answer. There's really no way to justify it.
Right.
You know what I mean? The only way to really justify it is exactly what he's doing, Oh, yeah, that's very liberal. Oh, you libtard. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, he hadn't have an answer. I don't know where I heard that clip.
I heard it the thing that people say, well, we're doing something over there. We're not creating all of these problems. We're not creating all the problems. I'll give him that. But we've just exacerbated and allowed that to continue. And we have funded and we have put so many weapons into the region. I mean, and not only that, I mean, the tactics that are being used today in places like Iraq to create IEDs, the people were taught. The rebels were taught by the CIA how to create these bombs and to use these against the Russians. So, I mean, there's just such a limited conversation that I'm sure that people like Glenn Greenwald can have on a show like that. So good for him. Good for him for at least. And you know where it really went south was where he started talking about Palestine. You know, because Bill Maher obviously.
And the big story at MSN today is smugglers smuggling in KFC through the tunnels from Egypt, but they're truthfully, Egypt flooded the tunnels, so the story is bullcrap. Excuse me. The big story today on MSN on Microsoft or
that's a promotion for KFC for sure. All right, Jim. Well, man, dude, I appreciate you coming on the show, man.
Yeah, and I'm sorry I flaked out on you last week, dude.
No, it's all right, man. It's absolutely all right. No big deal at all. Yeah, we had a good show last week. Actually, focused a lot on the police state and some.
I didn't even get into it. I had quite a few old police misconduct stories set up for today, but I had a great time, man. Thanks.
Yeah, dude. I appreciate having you on the show. We'll do it again really soon. I want to thank all of the people that have made it to this point in the podcast. That means that you are a fan, or at least you like the show enough to subscribe to the newsletter. It's an easy way to keep up with everything that is Blacklisted in the Blacklisted Nation. Thank you to the chatters for hanging out during the show, keeping it real, and keeping the conversation alive. I will be back throughout the week. I've got some pretty good interviews planned. So we'll be tweeting that out during the week. I don't have that in front of me, but just go to blacklistedradio.com and you can keep up with everything that we're doing. And until next time, have a great week. Take care. Be good. And hope to see you back here for another live edition of Blacklisted Radio.